Now we have seen how fish do obtain their gases. We have seen how amphibians do obtain their gases. We saw how insects. We saw how earthworms and simple organisms. So birds too are organisms. Okay? That you should have a good insight as far as gas exchange is concerned. And actually, for birds, they actually do have an efficient gas exchange system compared to all other animals, including you. Why? We are going to see why. Why it is considered to be the most efficient. And why should they have such a complex exchange system? It is because of their mode of life. That these birds, they actually do have a high metabolic rate because they need too much energy. You know, man, to fly away from gravity, to fly in air, remember I have no support, nothing is giving you any support. Okay, so you really need a high energy to maintain floating in air against gravity. So because of that, they need an efficient gas exchange apparatus, okay, that should bring enough air for them to respire and produce enough energy to maintain such a high lifestyle. So to bring fresh air into their lungs, then birds have 8 to 9 air sacs. Okay? 8 to 9 air sacs. These air sacs, they are the ones that improve the efficiency of gas exchange in birds. How do they improve? Now they don't participate in gas exchange. We don't have any exchange of gases in these air sacs, but rather they do act as barrels. Now what are barrels? I think I have, yes. So this is a barrel. In modern world, if you are carrying out, if you want to do the heating, then you don't use your mouth to blow in air. The village stuff. For us, when we were growing, we used to use firewoods. Where would put your firewoods in the three, we call it whatever, the 3 stones, and then you put your saucepan and you cook. So we used to put firewoods and we would keep blowing in air to maintain that flame. I think there was no constant supply of oxygen, so you keep putting in air. So in modern world, instead of keep using your mouth to blow in air, you can use this. And this is a barrel where you hold here and here and then you keep squeezing. Then this one blows in air. So these air sacs also, they do perform the same way. They do perform the same function in the same way these barrels do. Okay? Whereby the air that fills these air sacs, it is blown into the lungs for gas exchange. Now, why should have such a complex? Now, unlike you, whose lungs are just sacs, are just air sacs or alveoli, okay? Your lungs are just, it's a system of sacs called alveoli or air sacs, where gas exchange occurs, okay? Gas exchange occurs through these sacs. Now for them, the exchange occurs into a system of tubes. The lung, this one, it is modified into a system of tubes. Okay? System of tubes that spans throughout. Okay? And these tubes are called parabronchi. Now it is air is going to move through these tubes. Okay? And as air is flowing through, it receives too much resistance. And for your case, your air sacs, no resistance is faced by the flowing air. So therefore, you must have these barrels, okay, that will maintain that role of inflating the lungs, that will maintain the high pressure within this air that is flowing through the system. Otherwise, if you don't have the air sacs, then there is no way how air would freely move, okay, from these parabronchi. Imagine even with such resistance. So those are the air sacs for you. So because of that, it makes the respiratory system, the respiratory apparatus in these birds to be highly advanced, to be highly efficient than any other animal. Why? Because of the two features of this. In that feature number one, there is no mixing, okay, between the air that is entering and the air that is leaving. That is feature number one. But for your case, that's its point number two. For your case, if air enters into the lung and into the alveolus, the air that is rich in carbon dioxide and the air that is rich in oxygen, they are all using the same pathways. However, now gases diffuse down their concentration gradient, but they are using the same pathways. Okay? So these you will have mixing. Okay? The two types of air, both the one leaving and the one coming, they will have to mix at a certain point and then gases diffuse. But for these ones, there is totally no mixing. Okay? The inhaled air and the exhaled air do not mix at any stage. And so as a result, you maintain a constant flow, which is even high of these respiratory gases. Then the other one is that it maintains that unidirectional flow of air. Okay? Because there is no mixing, air will always flow in one direction through these parabronchi that you inhale via the nares or the nostrils. We are going to talk about gas exchange, and then moves from these posterior air sacs to the lungs, and then from the lungs to the anterior air sacs, and then exhaled out. No way. There is no way how air can flow back after you even have these barrels. You have these air sacs that will keep inflating the lungs. Okay? That will keep pushing air through these lungs. So because of that, it maintains the body's respiratory system, the body's respiratory apparatus to be highly advanced and efficient to support their need. Because the need for oxygen in birds is so high compared to yours. Unless you want to just be extravagant, then there is no reason why you should have a large amounts of air. Because your metabolic rate is low compared to birds. And so the need for oxygen, the need for energy is low. Okay? Because for you have support, you cannot swim. You cannot float in air. you have land which supports you. But for these ones, they must maintain, they must be able to float in air. They must oppose gravity. And you know how hard gravity is. You know what gravity does? Try to jump up. If there was no gravity, you would jump and you continue up to the clouds. I don't know up to where. But because of gravity, then you jump a bit and come back to the ground. But for these ones, they are able to oppose. And to do that, you really need energy. And how have they managed to maintain that constant flow of energy? It is evolving such an efficient gas exchange mechanism. Let's talk about gas exchange. Now, unlike other features, like you for instance, the gas exchange in bats, it is divided into 2 cycles of inhalation and 2 cycles of exhalation. And with the first cycle, it involves the first inhalation. And with first inhalation, air is drawn, okay, from the surrounding environment via the nostrils, okay, into the posterior air sacs. So that means these air sacs must expand, okay, to increase the volume in the air sacs, in the posterior air sacs. And if they expand and the volume increases, then air is drawn into the posterior air sacs. Now that marks first inhalation. Now, so with first inhalation, the air sacs contract and then air is pushed and fills the posterior air sacs. Maybe for us who don't know what posterior, what anterior is, posterior means towards the anus, towards the ends, and anterior means towards the head. So air fills the posterior air sacs first in the first inhalation. Then the first inhalation is followed by the second exhalation, whereby the first exhalation, whereby in the first exhalation, exhaling, our air that filled the posterior air sacs is pushed from the posterior air sacs by the contraction. You can have a look. By the contraction of the posterior air sacs into our lungs. And it is forced to pass through the system of tubes called the parabronchi. And these tubes, like how you're seeing, they are well vascularized, they are well supplied with blood capillaries. So as air is passing through the parabronchi, okay, then these respiratory gases, the carbon dioxide, the oxygen, they will be able to diffuse down their concentration gradient, whereby the oxygen diffuse from the flowing air, okay, into the blood capillaries and taken to the tissues for cellular respiration, and the carbon dioxide will diffuse, okay, from the surrounding blood capillaries into this space, okay, for expiration. Okay, now the first expiration is followed by the second inhalation, whereby now after exchange, okay, then the posterior air sacs, they will have to contract, okay, they'll have to contract. You can have a look. did I say contract? They have to expand so that the volume in the posterior air sacs is going to increase and the pressure decreases below the pressure in the lungs. So as a result, air is going to be sucked from the lungs into the anterior air sacs, which marks the beginning. Oh, that one, we call it the second inhalation. In other words, with inhalation, air is drawn into the air sacs, whereby the first inhalation, air is drawn into the posterior air sacs. Then with the second inhalation, air is drawn into the anterior air sacs. Then when air is drawn into, remember, as you contract, okay, this one is going to contract and then is pushed into the trachea and then forced out. By the time this one contracts to push the air into the trachea, the one inhaled would have bypassed earlier and then you push. So that's how that system is designed. Okay? It is designed in a way that you would have that constant flow of air, and at any time t, you won't have any mixing. Okay? You won't have any mixing of air. Then after second inhalation, then we have the second exhalation, whereby the anterior air sacs will contract and then air that entered the body at the first inhalation is pushed out of the body. So this system is really efficient, okay, for these organisms. And because these organisms require high energy demands, or they have high energy demands, okay, then they require an efficient gas exchange apparatus to supply their bodies with enough energy. You can have a look at this. Okay? You can have a look at that. So, there is no mixing at all. So the red represents the oxygenated blood and the yellow is oxygenated blood. So you can have a look. Air enters the yellow, which is oxygenated, fills the posterior air sacs, okay? And then when it fills the posterior air sacs, then they contract and push air into the parabronchi. Now when you try to zoom in, you can have a look. So this is just this part. So you can see how as air rich in oxygen is flowing through the parabronchi, this system of tubes, then the oxygen will diffuse, you can have a look here, into the blood capillaries, this one, okay? So the oxygen, it is even counter current. Everything, it flows in opposite direction. You can have a look. So as air is flowing towards this side, okay, then blood is this side. So that the air, or the oxygen will diffuse into blood and taken to the entire body. And carbon dioxide will diffuse, okay, into our parabronchi, okay, and then the anterior air sacs will relax, and then this air rich in carbon dioxide fills, and then they contract again to push the air into the trachea to the outside. So I gotten this pic from Google and it was really good. So whoever designed it, they did some good work. It's a GIF. It's really good. It shows how air moves in and out in a body. So any queries for me?